Welcome to the weekend must watch on Intercut, the weekly show going through all the movies, the TV, and tornadoes that come our way. I'm your co host, Arturo Zurita, and joining me, he knows it if he feels it. He's got to chase it. I was going to do a twins one for you, but I'm going to keep it PG with that. It's Zachary Shevich.
What's going on, my man? You been chasing any big storms lately? How's it
No,
going?
I'm on the DL because I chased the biggest one of them all. I was dumb enough to skip the Dolby, skip the IMAX, and went for the 40X like I told you yesterday. And I think I'm still recovering on that one, dude. You said you've never done a 40X.
No,
Ever.
my back thanks me for it. So I don't know. Do we need to get you a masseuse? What's going on?
I'm actually wondering, what if you do the 40X and it like shifts you into gear? It does like the one thing
Right.
that no chiropractor could do. Or maybe it's going to mess you up even more, bro, because you are in the truck with these people when you do the 40X. And I've had I don't even want to call it the privilege or the blessing. I've had the curse of going to a couple 40X screenings where they really mess you up. I still think that Sonic has been one of the funnest ones that I've been to, but Twisters has gone viral for this specific type of screening because it adds so much to the movie. It is one of those where 40X works really well when you're in cars, and that's how they're chasing the storms. You then add all the other elements to it, right? Bro, they have dust in this screening. They got water in this screening. There was damn near a tornado in this screening. It is something you need to take the time to go see if you, one, like the movie, or two, have been curious about it. It's always like, do you go see an IMAX movie if it's not going to fill up the screen? Don't waste your money. Are you going to see something you can see at home? Many of you don't. The Twisters experience in 40X is something you're going to remember, that's for sure. I feel like I survived with some of them there.
It does feel like a movie that is particularly well suited for the format, right? Like it's not just that there are all these environmental elements in it, but there is a bit of like thrill-seeking chasing adventure.
Right, it's a ride, a Universal.
Yeah, it is a theme park ride in a sense. Like it's the perfect movie for one of those like motion coasters or something like that. Maybe that's in the deleted scenes or an extra coming out later. I don't know, but I'm sure it'd be fun. Maybe I need to make my first 40X experience the Twisters one.
And I think you guys have a new one because y'all had the Regal. I think it's the one in Union that got like completely fixed up and stuff. And I heard y'all got the Screen X and the 40X. So you got to do it all three ways. Go to the IMAX and just come out with it all cast out by the end of it. But yeah, that has obviously been the biggest movie of the week. We'll be breaking that down. A couple of other ones as well. Got some movie news, some recommendations. Film festivals as we're on the horizon for all of the fall fest as well. We just came up with our midway year list. Throw it in the garbage because we got so many more movies coming out between Venice and TIFF. We'll be breaking some of that stuff down. But anything else that you've been doing that's non 40X related movie wise?
Not a whole lot. I caught Demi Adejuyigbe doing a comedy show in Brooklyn last night.
How was it?
Yeah. He's been performing the show called Demi Adejuyigbe is going to do one backflip. And it's a very funny show in the way that
does he do the backflip?
I think that's I don't want to ruin the big ending. It is a whole, it leads up to it, but he does title the show, Demi's going to do a backflip for a reason. I can say that much. Anyway, I mean, if you are familiar with Demi Adejuyigbe, who is a guy that is very popular online, he's probably one of the bigger Letterbox reviewers as well. He's a comedy writer who's done work on shows like The Good Place, The Amber Ruffin Show. And he also did the viral September videos that you may have seen go around every year on, I believe, September 21st. Anyway, he's been working on this comedy show for a bit, and it's directed by Nick Kocher and Brian McElhenney. So if you are familiar with Britannic, the comedy duo that started on YouTube and eventually went to SNL, they're involved with the show as well.
Interesting.
But it's fun because he's a guy who's obviously really like versed in things that are popular online. He has somebody who makes things that get popular online quite often. So there's, songs about the IKEA monkey and jokes about, whatever new trends are happening. Like he's able to flip the show so quickly that there's already jokes about like Brat Summer and Kamala's Brat Summer and stuff like that in the actual show. But he's a really silly dude. He's a very talented performer. He can write music well and perform it too. I really enjoyed it. If you get a chance to see it, definitely keep it on your radar.
Nice. Do you see this as being something that could be recorded, distributed?
I think so. I wouldn't be surprised if this eventually is like the hour that a lot of comedians
Special.
build up to filming and making their debut special. He's been working on this since like 2020, I believe, was the first time he did the show. So anytime you see a comedian stick with one sort of idea like that for that long, I feel like they are, refining it to a point where it can sort of be their big debut. And Demi feels like a guy who will eventually kind of have a bigger, more mainstream breakthrough, given how talented he is and how many funny things he's been attached to. So maybe it'll be this, maybe it'll be something else. But yeah, I think he's really talented and really entertaining. Definitely worth keeping your eye on if you don't know about him yet.
Besides writing and this, he hasn't really made the jump over to, like, I would say, what's his name wasn't too much of a writer, but also on Twitter, I would follow a lot of what's his name? Our boy who did Strange World, and after Strange World, he did not do that much. But he is on the what's it called? The Problemista. He's on Fantasmas, and I figured.
Oh, Jabuki.
Jabuki kind of like,
yeah.
I feel he disappeared. He also kind of tanked his Twitter around a certain period.
Yeah, and he started doing some music stuff as well. He seems like he's figuring out what he wants to do next.
Yeah, but we've seen him jump into, voice acting and be a lot of it in front of the camera stuff. I feel like a lot of stuff from Demi has been behind the camera, post.
Yeah.
This sounds like the first big foray, I guess, into performing that I know of off the top of my head. But I think that'll be really cool. No, sounds good. All right, let's
get into the movies.
The movies of the week.
Yeah.
And what better way to start than with Twisters? The biggest film to come out in at least this past weekend. I don't know if you saw the stuff about who raised more money. The vice president, soon to be president, if be, or Twisters that made race. 80 and neck race. Honestly, it is funny, right? Because this is like, I'm just going to say, I feel like the part of the country where she's not getting a single vote. Twisters takes place in Tornado Alley, as it is the follow-up to the 1990s film. That in this household is a really big deal. If that plays on TNT, wherever that movie comes on, it is getting played all the way through. I had the chance to rewatch the 4K of that, or whatever version they're streaming, because I think they're trying to come up with another take on it, redux on it. I think the first Twister, it is the perfect popcorn flick. Someone had this post about, when a movie's 5-star, when a movie is 3 stars but it's really 5 stars. This is that genre, that disaster type of movie, and that's what the original always held for me. And Twisters felt like it was going the route of the Top Gun thing that you had mentioned prior. Turns out that it's even got the Top Gun director as the writer. Did you know that?
Yeah, I didn't realize until credits rolled that Joseph Kosinski was at least credited for the story, I believe, on this. I guess there must have been a prior version of this that maybe he was attached to direct, and eventually the reins fell to Lee Isaac Chung,
who I think did a fantastic job. What do you think?
Yeah, I obviously it feels like coming from a film like Minari that we both loved, you're working with a completely different skill set to pioneer this kind of like action blockbuster. But I think he did a really fantastic job. It's really satisfying. He elicited some really excellent, charismatic performances from a lot of the cast.
Yep.
And yeah, I think it really delivers. We got a question from Josh here in the live stream asking if we thought he was a good choice, noting that he knows the environments very well. Lee is a guy who grew up in Oklahoma, around where this film is set. And it does feel like it has that like love and appreciation for the environment. It does feel, you get a bit of that experience, on the ground experience.
Yeah. I think he's from Arkansas. And then in my rewatch for the 40X, the main character of what's his name is from Arkansas. And I'm like, oh, okay, clever boy there. I think it's the best example of getting an independent director, someone who's done smaller stuff, and bringing him up to the bigger scale. You and I have done this podcast for a while. We see someone get picked out of like Sundance, South by, they make their big screen debut, and nothing that we loved about them. Is there, after, they get millions and millions of dollars, I think you see his stuff here. the way he shoots a lot of the exteriors is like what he remembers it looking like, and him wanting to capture it right at dawn, right at twilight. It was shot on film, and he said that he fought for it and got the specific cinematographer. Spielberg gave him the okay for it. I think like he really wore his heart on his sleeve, and you see a lot of his intimacy is what I think I would really describe his filming style as, because I think some of the best shots aren't even the tornadoes. There is this insane shot with what's her name, where she does the dandelion bit. This man grabs a film camera and films her at like 200 frames per second and does a tilt around when she's trying to like figure out where is the spot that we're supposed to go for the tornado. And I just thought it was beautiful. And he adds a lot of those elements to it, even when it comes to the disaster scenes. He said he described how the houses, all of them were built to be real houses with real memories. All of the extras are people who survived a tornado or a disaster. So when it happens, they're not just playing set dressing. All of the houses that get destroyed are real memories. And all of the people there are reenacting the turmoil that they went through. I thought they got the best director for the job.
Yeah, I think he did a really excellent job. I mean, I think there are maybe elements in some of the set pieces where you feel some of the plasticity of the CGI, but it's not overly like unrealistic or anything. I think he does a very good job of kind of keeping you close to the characters and their experience of the action, and particularly that opening is really terrifying in the way that like a horror movie is. It almost feels like like a Jaws sequence or something out of Godzilla with the monster chasing them. I thought it was notable that there were 5 tornado set pieces in this movie, with the opening bit, the part with the windmills, the twins, the rodeo, and then that last sequence with the movie theater. It is a jam-packed blockbuster. There's this nonstop action, and maybe it's a little bit unrealistic for so many tornadoes to hit within such a short period of time in Oklahoma. But it keeps you engaged. It keeps you leaning forward. I thought it did a good job of like really, really never letting up. I did, as I mentioned on our last weekend must watch, get to watch Twisters, the original Twister for the first time, and it did put into contrast some of the set pieces that maybe could have, I think Twisters could have benefited from. Like there's that really fun moment in the original Twister where they like drive through the house. I feel like
you're not going to replicate that.
You're not going to replicate it, but I think there's a little bit of like that wackiness of like what how they're trying to navigate the storms, maybe missing from the original movie. That doesn't mean I wasn't like on the edge of my seat and really, really into all the set pieces here.
You wouldn't say that the cow from the first one, iconic. They weren't
Wizard
able
of Oz
to.
reference.
Yeah, they weren't able to go all the way. That was a thing on my rewatch too. I'm gonna get back to the Wizard of Oz. It's all Wizard of Oz, the first and the second one too. The cow gets swapped out for the chicken bit, and you don't think that the house gets swapped out for the theater bit? That theater bit is crazy.
Yeah, but they have a drive-in theater bit in the first movie too.
They do, but they weren't hanging out to dear life by the theater chairs.
No,
that was me in the 40X.
Really
I was hanging out with them.
The movie theater bit really works. I honestly, what I wanted a little bit more of was those windmills, because that was terrifying.
When they moved like this, and I'm like, those things are really heavy. If one of those flies out, you're donezo. Like, I thought it was goofy enough the way it needed to be, especially with the way it dispersed the characters, because you got 2 camps pretty much. You have the camp that is our lead, played by the one and only
Daisy Edgar Jones.
British, Daisy Edgar Jones. I thought she was very British in the movie. I didn't mind it too much. There's one big speech she gives. I heard the accent coming in and out.
It definitely peaked out a little bit, and I gotta say, like, with our 2 leads of Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell, you get Glenn Powell kind of giving like the movie star performance of the summer. I do think he wipes her off the screen a little bit. You're kind of like, whenever Glenn Powell's not in this movie, it's a little bit of like, where's Glenn Powell? Bring back Glenn Powell.
And he's got the audacity to tell the reporter, I think she's your story. Boy, we're here. We bought tickets for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put the 2 fingers up in the air like, come on, dude. I get that y'all want us to like her. She's so intriguing. What line she say that was so intriguing? We like her because she's supposed to have this like 6th sense for tornadoes, but as you see from the intro and such, it's also kind of like the baggage that she has. No, you're right. I thought Glenn Powell was fantastic in this because there's a couple of scenes where they do the whole I'm going to explain to you, person who knows more than I do about tornadoes, what an
Right.
F5 is, because I need to tell you this really cool thing about we focus on a tornado and name it after the destruction it's left, not at the moment. So we only know it in hindsight. I'm like, I think she knows this.
Right.
But he delivers it in such a good way, and that's when you have a really solid movie in your hands, when they're breaking some exposition bits, and it doesn't break the movie down. It adds to it. It's a very emotional moment. I also think the way they use the music throughout was pretty clever, because they have a completely, solely original soundtrack. You know, it's like Black Panther, but for the country people. And this whole thing is like weaved in to either be a background song, something that he's playing. It'll literally be a countdown to him pressing one of their like mixtapes as they go into a tornado. They'll have an artist who I think plays outside of the motel. And I found that really funny because I'm like, you're clearly an artist. You don't belong here in this Oklahoma motel. He said his sister does the national anthem at the rodeo too. So it's a very big
Glenn Powell's
family
sister?
affair. Glenn Powell's sister. She's the one singing there. A much better national anthem than the MLB.
It did really give the whole movie this very like country twanging Americana feel. I thought that was kind of interesting given the whole like debate around Lee Isaac Chung's last movie, which is another Great Plains set film.
Talk about it.
But it was frequently labeled as, you know, a foreign film or a Korean film or something like that, despite being, you know, an American film just about people who immigrated from Korea. And it's almost like he's gone in the complete opposite directions. Like, all right, you want some Americana? I can give you Americana.
Exactly. That's why I loved it so much, because he's mopped it, dude. He's got the soundtrack. He's got the cast. To even go to all the other ones, because, again, she's more so on the side of trying to fix what she's had going with her because of the intro. And it's pretty much just her and Anthony Ramos, who kind of brings her back into the game. He gets to do the cool little spin demonstration on what they want to do with the technology, which was also kind of sketchy. This man straight up said, I worked for the military for a little bit, and they created tech where I could hear a moth from all the way over there. I'm like...
Let's spend more time on that, Anthony Ramos.
Yeah, wait, what are they using that for? And how do they have so much of that you were able to take two portable versions?
It's interesting because it's sort of an inversion of the first movie, where like the evil tech guys or the more like business guys are the antagonists in the first movie, and then you start out on the opposite end, and ultimately they kind of invert that. So playing in the traditions of playing in the tradition of the franchise, but giving you a bit of a different flavor for it.
Because you get like a bad guy, but at the same time, I'm always a big fan of like someone not knowing the mistakes that they made, and if there's room for growth. And I thought that was good, which is why you forgot the Twister set pieces. You did forget one. There was the internal twisters they had along the way.
The emotional twisters.
You know, I joked about that with Alina. She laughed at me, and then I got Glenn Powell actually saying it on record. So that is a thing in the movie. Some of the other people who they had in the cast that I thought were really, really good was all of the team for the actual Wranglers. They're the people who don't really have the education in it. This man got the education, Glenn Powell's character, and then kind of gave it to everybody else. I've been saying, Brandon, he just does not have good luck with the sky. But I think he's even better here than he was in Nope. There's just something about his role here, especially the second time around when you catch all the little things that he says. Talking about the first one, you weren't going to be able to replicate all those side characters like Philip Seymour Hoffman. And getting a little bit of him and some of the other characters, I thought really helped. His banter with, his name Tyler? I thought was great.
Yeah, I mean, they're almost trying to replicate that Twisters thing in real time, where the first movie was filled with all these like really recognizable, beloved character actors. So here they're going to pull in Brandon Pereira from Nope, who is excellent, as you said, in this movie. They're going to pull in Tunde Adebimpe, who I wish was out there making more TV on the radio music, but instead kind of gets the Philip Seymour Hoffman, like dude who's way too, like almost like
way too
sexually
smart
into these tornadoes part.
Dude, there was one part with this man where he they all pointed at each other. I think they're like celebrating and they're going, yeah. And he just goes, That got one dude in the back to laugh so hard. It's subtle, right? It's such a tiny role for him, but you know everything about his character. When they see the twins, right? Brandon's going to be the person to say like the meme, the in and out gift that they're going to have for the movie. But his was like he needs to name it. Like you're saying, he gets so turned on by it, but he wants people to know, no, there is a name for this. He can't just experience it. He needs to connect it with what he knows. He was great. Sasha Lane.
Sasha Lane, who we've loved in stuff like American Honey or How to Blow Up a Pipeline, was great. Kiernan Shipka had that small role in the beginning. Katie O'Brien from Love Lies Bleeding, also a lot of fun in this movie.
It took me a while to realize it was her, dude. I don't know why.
Katie?
It did not click until I came home.
Yeah, I mean, without the like 6-pack and gigantic muscles being, it's a cool role for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no,
what did you think about David Cornsweet, who kind of plays one of the antagonists in this film as well?
So I've been confusing,
super of a man.
Yeah, I've been confusing David, and I've also been confusing. I think it's Joel Alwyn, because he was just in Kinds of Kindness. To me, they got a little bit of a similar look. They are different though. It was a certain point where he's strolling in the truck. Let me try to pick up a picture of him. And as we were saying, there is a subplot, which I thought was done very well. There have been complaints about this movie, and I don't know how you feel about this. You let me know, that the movie dealing with weather didn't get too much into climate change.
It's a movie?
Unless they saw it on mute. I thought they did as well. They're talking about New York having tornadoes and price going up. I don't know. I felt like people wanted like a speech, but Lee Isaac talked about that because he's been getting that a lot in interviews, and he goes, I focus on the science, and if the scientists didn't tell me to add anything other than that or some big speech, I didn't. The best part that it covers is this idea of his character and what they do with tragedy. When things get torn down, who comes in to help? Right. I thought that was way more profound than telling people, hey, here's nothing you could do about Tornado Alley that you're not from. Like that, what? But it does inform you on what's happening to families out there in the midst of all this destruction and who you're giving to. I thought his character was pretty good. I think it's ballsy to go out there and keep playing like bad guys before you're about to be Superman. Yep. But Alina caught this one where it's like you almost like see him with the logo that his company has. It looks like an evil Superman logo. And in that, I was like, okay, I like what they're doing with him.
It's pretty funny. Apparently, he got the call that he was getting cast as Superman while on set for this movie.
You're right. So I just heard it this morning. There's supposed to be a scene where he came back to film because Katie talked about this. She was like, I was getting swole for Love Lies Bleeding and whatever else, and they started talking about their eating regimens. And he came back for a scene and he was bulked up. So there is a scene where he will go from the MIT guy to just randomly bulk.
This movie also has sort of like an interesting element in that the Daisy Edgar Jones character is like trying to work on the science to make tornadoes less deadly. And they talk about using like the polymer that's in diapers to affect the environment. And like, I know it's a bunch of pseudoscience, but I kind of liked how much they tried to kind of make the science make sense.
It did actually start again.
Yeah. Like it sounded legit enough. I'm sure it's all bullshit, but it sounded kind of legit enough that I didn't feel like my brain was completely off during this whole movie.
I agree. Yeah. I thought it was an interesting perspective to it. It only made me question how you were saying how many tornadoes can be in one place.
Right.
How many of these places have not built their stuff to be to come with basements, to come with better foundations? There's no one ever getting warnings, but we're out here at a rodeo. There were some goofy parts in the movie for sure. But I thought overall, especially with the rewatch, I thought it was a blast. It's the exact type of movie that you want to go see. Just to kind of like shut your brain off. It doesn't throw so much at you that leaves you feeling heavy by the end of it. You feel all the tension in the theater and you're relieved by the end of it. Great characters, great cast, VFX, music, all that good stuff. I thought they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, totally. I maybe have some questions about like the practicality of getting as close to the twisters as they did while like other things are being pulled out of the air and they're able to stay on the ground. But it's riveting, and it's kind of the type of stylized blockbuster entertainment that I think we're a bit hungry for. Like I do think it's interesting that this is a style of movie that in some ways was like rejected over the past decade. You know, you have The Day After Tomorrow is kind of the last, in my mind, major environmental disaster type of movie, and then you get
Not
stuff like
2012?
2012. Well, ones that I think were widely
Braced.
embraced. 2012 has more of a mixed response. We kind of liked Greenland a few years ago, but it feels like this genre almost like went away for a little bit, and maybe it kind of went away for a long enough that now we're really ready for it.
That's true.
Either that, or we just all recognize how cool twisters are, even though they're destructive.
Well, it's like a monster movie. You had mentioned earlier the fact that it feels like Jaws. There's like a whole element to it that in the movie theater, it's a monster fest that's happening. And I thought that was pretty clever. I was like, oh, I see what you're doing here. You are playing it out. You got Spielberg as producer. You're playing the twisters off as monsters. And that's awesome because it's not a Michael Myers or Frankenstein where it's like, what's the continuity? Once a twister dies, you get another one coming in, especially here every 25 minutes or so. So I'm curious to see where they end up taking it. So I'm curious your thoughts on whether you want to see more of it, and then also how you feel this one dealt with the legacy of it. Did you feel it was too heavy-handed, maybe not enough?
I know there's some people who are hoping that there would be an even greater connection. I personally expected the Maura Tierney character to be Helen Hunt or something like that. But
the mom?
I don't. Yeah, I don't need that direct of a connection. Like, I thought it was cool that they brought the Dorothy capsule back. Like, that it's a direct acknowledgement of the past in a way. I don't really need it to be such a direct sequel. And in fact, in some ways I prefer it, because once we start getting into bringing legacy characters back, then we start opening up the like Last Jedi arguments of, are you being faithful enough to who I remember when I was a child?
Yeah. You know what it felt like? Especially on the rewatch, because they had like the Dorothy thing there, and I was like, oh, it's a or is it someone who like just recreate? It felt like they were fans of the movie,
right?
More than they were like in the movie follow up, and I thought that was pretty cool. I thought just the subtleties of they went to the same school, the same college that the older characters went to. I thought it's expanding on the whole Dorothy thing, not just with the machine, but his whole squad. I don't know if you saw all the cars were Tin Man, Scarecrow, Lion. They all had different vehicle names for that. She's going through a whole Dorothy story as well of leaving home because of a tornado, coming back to it. So it's a lot of nice little parallels there. And I thought keeping things simple, like I think it's Bill Paxton's son who comes in for that cameo at the motel. Like, that's how you do it. It's just a character. It's not intrusive. You figure out after the fact. So I don't know. I thought it worked. I'm curious to see where they take it. It does feel like they want to do a couple more. There's this big talk about a scene that was changed towards the end. I didn't really feel it until everyone's like, they took something from us. Once you see the movie, I'm sure you can investigate it and see what it is, because the scene is still out there. So
and I think it kind of worked in the context of the movie. Although, like, I get people kind of want a little more of this fulfillment in their blockbusters.
I like what the movie does too. It's cool because I think it makes the relationship better, in my opinion.
Exactly. It's more about how they feel about each other than like the romance of it.
If they feel it, they're chasing it. There you go. But I guess some people really wanted to see the catch. Twisters out in theaters. I recommend it in Dolby, Prime, whatever your best theater is near you. But if you get the chance to do that 40x screening, make sure it comes with a seatbelt, because you
does it get an extra half star for the 40x experience?
It does get a little. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, there were some scenes. No, like, it is bad. You were actually holding on for life with them. It wasn't a movie. I swear, when they come in to help the towns, the ushers were coming in to help us from our seats too. We're like falling down, bro. It was a mess.
Yeah.
It was a mess.
I think I'm gonna land at a 3.5 star on this one. Maybe even a little generous, just because like it is a little bit of a silly movie, but it is a lot of fun. And maybe eventually it falls into that camp that you were talking about at the beginning of our discussion of those like 5-star, 3-star movies.
Yeah. Look, I was sitting at it a little bit above a 3.5. You know, I was in those IMDb 3.7 numbers. My extra little quarter is going to go up there for the 40x repeated experience. So I'm sitting at a 4. You're sitting at a 3.5. In our new Intercut profile that you can go follow all of our Letterboxd reviews when we make our weekend must-watch list at the end when we're giving you our recommendations. We're going to have that all right here. We aggregate it. It's from your favorite movie, no? To add it to the aggregate. 3.5, 4, where are we falling?
I mean, if you're if I'm like a weak 3.5 and you're a strong 3.5, or a 4, I don't know. Is that 3.5? Do we go up to 4?
I don't know, I'm asking you, bro.
3.5 with the heart?
3.5 with the heart. I'll take it. Twisters out in theaters. Catch it because Deadpool comes out, and I don't like that part of it. I don't need to see Deadpool in 40x.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all need to keep this one in 40x. Give Deadpool the IMAX and everything else, but this needs. It's different when you go to a 40x movie and it's just like. This actually has like grass smells. Like people don't get that. You have to actually send the scents. When he does the dirt road, you smell the dirt road. Like you actually have elements to it that I feel like
Right.
need to be refilled. And I don't want to smell a single thing that Deadpool had for this next showing over here. So please keep the 40x for the movies that require it.
Yeah, I wish we could even do more of like a rotation for movies too. Just because a new blockbuster is out doesn't mean
Bring it
that
back.
something that is a week old or 2 weeks old should be knocked out completely.
Top
Like I
Gun
get
did
it.
that.
Yeah,
Remember?
exactly.
That
Like,
was a good
we can
time.
let's share some screens. I don't know. Gustav in the live stream asked us if we feel that Twister has to be seen in theaters for the audio and visuals. And
Yeah.
I do think you are missing
think so.
something because part of the whole experience is that these are literally awesome meteorological phenomenons, and they don't feel quite so awe-worthy on like a small TV
iPhone.
without surround sound, stuff like that. So I would recommend that. Ryan Reynolds quips can be just as entertaining at home, in my opinion.
You might need a crap for the Ryan Reynolds ones. I will say that right there. But we move on to the next one. We have a review coming out with Lee from the Drum Dumbs channel where we broke down a lot of the stuff dealing with horror in 2024. But I know Zach had a couple more thoughts on Longlegs, the newest one from Osgood Perkins.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting because as we sort of talk about in our upcoming discussion with Lee, this is a film that came into the weekend with a whole lot of hype. It had probably the most effective marketing campaign I think we can say of any movie this year, just in terms of the way that it was able to drive interest in a way that outpaced what is usually expected for movies like this.
A24 A24. They played
exactly
them in their own game.
the most successful opening weekend that Neon's ever had. And
Wow.
then what?
Oh, wow.
And then what it delivered was a movie that's less in the mold of your slashers or even of your like big time monster movies, and kind of a little bit more in the mold of something like David Fincher's Seven or even Zodiac. These kind of Silence of the Lambs. Even maybe Prisoners is more of an allegory, even though there's maybe more of a darkness to Longlegs than that. But these are these really unsettling, ominous, foreboding films that I think do a really good job of getting under your skin. It was an interesting experience to me because there is this like constant bait and switch element to the film. Like you start out with these sort of like Zodiac elements to it, and like an crime investigation piece, and then it sort of molds itself into something different. And each time that you kind of think where the movie is, sort of what the movie's about, where the movie's going, it sort of eliminates that as like a possible outcome. And I found myself being really like disturbed, but a little bit not in suspense. And I'm curious what your experience of the movie was like, given all the hype that led into it, all the anticipation around it, and then the way that the movie actually plays out. How'd you feel about that element of Longlegs?
What do you mean, like you suspense as in like you weren't as intrigued, or is it like you found it intriguing, you just didn't find it scary?
I found, it's interesting because I found it intriguing, but maybe a little bit gingerly paced, a little bit withholding in elements. Like I kind of wanted to get to the meat of it a little bit quicker because it kept kind of throwing out some ideas and then kind of mixing it up and going in a different direction. For a while it's the hunt for Longlegs, and without getting too deep into spoilers, I think you're expecting them to spend a lot of time on certain elements of the story, and instead it just jumps forward a little bit. I found myself questioning a couple times in the movie, questioning what's the thing we're waiting for, like what's the shoe to drop, rather than wondering about a specific unanswered question, if that makes any sense without I guess, getting too specific.
Yeah, I've had a bit going on about this movie in where I feel that the people who really enjoy it, um, there's like a slew of people who don't know what they like about it,
Hmm.
and there are elements in the movie that deal with certain aspects of evil that I think were cleverly put into the movie technically. So like the
Hmm.
way it's shot, impeccable. I think the acting is really good. It's the story and its direction, the pacing of it that we're trying to discuss, where people are split
Right.
like, is it a good movie or is it not? Because incredible marketing campaign, only for people to kind of be divided on it, I would say, because
Yeah.
of the way it was marketed. A big part of the marketing is you don't know who Longlegs is or what their purpose is.
Hmm.
Once that's over, though, what's going to be the lasting factor of the movie,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I think that's the big thing that people have a push and pull with. To me, I compare it very much to another movie. I'm looking at this right here. I'm looking at this right here, and I'm sorry, I'm seeing this. It is bar for
Longlegs and
bar the
Barbarian.
exact
Yeah.
same type of movie.
Very
Between
similar
Barbarian,
posters.
yeah, and Longlegs, you have the exact same type of colors. You have this idea of a visit that turns into something more. You have
Right.
these, bringing up to the basement. But even more than that, I think you and I watch enough movies to be like, oh, I could see what recipe this is. He
Hmm.
made a movie, Osgood Perkins, the same way that the director of Barbarian did, Zach Cregger. They thought of an idea, and then they just freestyled. And that's why
Hmm.
you feel what you feel. People loved Barbarian, I think, for the same reason some people like Longlegs. You don't know where the next twist is going to be because neither did the writer. There's this like theme that he has with it about family because of the mother character in here,
Right.
but you can tell that a lot of what he did was Seven, and he's on record saying this. Seven, so I'm bringing you in, thinking that it's Seven, thinking that it's what did you say, Zodiac?
Right.
He didn't care about any of the ciphers. Half the ciphers from the movie are not even the ciphers that they did for the
Exactly.
incredible
And
marketing.
it's the things like that where it's like, oh, this is a movie about getting to the bottom of the ciphers. Actually, no, the ciphers aren't
Not
really
really.
important. Oh,
Yeah,
this
that's
is a
a
movie
cheat
about
code.
finding long legs. Actually, it's not
Nah.
really about
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's almost like it's playing off of a bunch of horror movies that and going, they already
Right.
did the work for me. So he's kind of like using your biases against you, the cliches, the stereotypes that you think from these
Hmm.
movies, and that's where it makes it unsettling because you're like, we're about to do. No, we're not. He does so many annoying things where he'll put her right like
Yeah.
next to a
Red
window when someone
flags.
just shot from the house, and you're like, why would you be next to the window? I believe he's trolling you with this movie through and through. I think it's a
Hmm.
horror movie about other horror movies coming from the guy. Is the deeper you dig into it, who is the son of Norman Bates himself, whose father was also Osgood Perkins, and it turns out that this guy's been in a family of horror people, and I think he's almost having a discussion with horror fans in it
Yeah.
about what they can find and what they look for. This is where you expect it to go. No, we're gonna go this way, and I think it's pissed some people off, but it's also I think what's gonna give it a lot of long legs because people will be able to
Yeah.
get whatever they want from it.
And that's an interesting point to arrive at because while there are elements of the film that I don't know, maybe are not as strong as other elements of the film or maybe elements of the marketing, when you bring in those thematic elements and what it is sort of trying to say about like family and the lengths that we go to and just the way that
That's good.
resonates with
I like that.
Osgood's experience,
Yeah,
really thoughtful, interesting stuff, and that
incredible.
deepens my appreciation for it. But it is
But what the
it is a
hell?
pretty
but the
yeah
plot though, right? It's like, wait a minute,
yeah
but
it,
what about the plot?
yeah it's a really interesting situation or like complex. I don't know, because there's so much about it that it is commendable and so much about it that I think leaves a little bit to be desired, but it
Yeah,
is undoubtedly like one of the most curious things that we've gotten this year.
yeah. I put it. I think a lot of it comes from the idea that you got someone who's got a lot of notoriety in the business, right?
Yeah.
He's to a degree a nepo baby. Not that I'm taking that away from it, anything. It's just knowing the perspective that he has that allows him to be able to make a movie like this. I don't know if you've ever heard Oz talk. He does not give a damn about anything.
Yeah.
Hearing the interviews for this has been one of the most enlightening things of someone just telling you how a project is made because he showcases all of the ingredients. This man cast Nicolas Cage and did not expect him to do that voice, right? I think the beauty of this is that people, when they like a movie, defend everything, including the making of, that they don't know anything about. This isn't to detract from it, but I found it fascinating for him to admit he did not think he was going to go that route, So now you have a very serious movie with a hidden aspect from the marketing that is Nick Cage's performance that even he said, "Ah, crap, damn it, we ruined the movie." He has thanked his editor so much because all of the things that you find a problem with are actual inconsistencies in the movie. He said the entire ending wasn't even written when they started the movie. So if you have questions about some of the detectives not being precautious before they get there, it's because it wasn't ready. Right. When you get to the ending, he admitted half of it is ADR because they messed up in how they filmed it, and that's why it leaves some questions. Oh, right. Well, so like when you realize like, oh, there was some filmmaking errors along the way. That ends up being the response to a lot of the criticisms or confusion, but it would require you to admit, oh, well, yeah, it's a movie that has some mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But there's an element to this film that deals with evil that allows you to sprinkle that in and be like, or was it a mistake? And maybe it was the work of something else. And that's the funniest part to me, is the people who are adding elements that are not there in the movie at all.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting, to me, it's the epitome of marketing, how you could take something that could have been an entire mess and they were able to sell it in a certain way that people got attached to it. All of the ciphers that people have done outside of it, that was all done in post. Like that was all extra stuff that let people be more excited about the movie. When, as you said, the movie doesn't really care about the codes. The movie doesn't really care about how she's figuring it out. She kind of just does.
Right.
It's for a bigger therapeutic thing that she's going through in the film, that he's doing through the film as well, about his father.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to ask you this when we were talking to our buddy Lee from Drum Dums, but is this to you the horror movie of the year? Is it still First Omen for you? I think that was the one that stood out earlier to you.
I like First Omen a lot. Right now it's Oddity, which is going to be my pick for the week. That is a nice little independent
we'll get to that.
film. So I'm putting that up there. If we're counting the TV Glow, I'm putting that up there. Yes, I was a pretty big fan of, which one did you just mention right now?
First Omen?
That goes with that too. First Omen, and that goes with Immaculate. Yeah, those two were like really good back to back. It's a good double feature there. Stop motion.
Right.
I've been mentioning a lot. I don't think you've caught that one yet. Red Rooms was the last one I caught before recording. And sprinkle in one of your favorites of the year, the one that turned you into a horror fan.
In a Violent Nature, yeah. The excellent one. We got a live stream question from and super chat from Josh asking, do you think Longlegs is overrated?
After everything I said, I'm still going to say no, because I do think there's a difference. Like, you know, I mentioned him being a Nepo baby, but I think there's layers to that. I think we have some Nepo babies that are like, ugh, and then some others that are like, I'm very curious with all the information you know, what can you do next? So all the accidents and whatever that happened with this film, I do actually think make it more intriguing, whereas I can see another filmmaker it being like a bastardization of what they tried to make. So I don't think it's overrated, because the people who don't like it, I think will enjoy it more on rewatches. I do think there's a lot there. Just as for basic thing, I've heard people dismiss a lot, but I don't know if you've seen the marketing now. Their new marketing is the Haunting of Hill House.
Yes,
Did you catch
the hidden
15
ghosts,
spots of the devil? So I think that even if people aren't going to love it, be head over heels like people are on another watch, I do think that they will appreciate more things about it. So I don't think it's a dud. I don't think it's a masterpiece either, though. I think there's a lot of mistakes in the movie. But the one thing that it got over story, plot, and everything is that tone. The way it's shot. And it's that eeriness that I think lot of people grab. We've talked about this a lot, that there are horror movies where because they got a good cinematographer, people ignore the story or the direction because it looks like a movie, because it looks scary, and that can go a long way. And I think this, while it may not have the best direction and such, I do like Osgood Perkins, and I would recommend his older films because I think he's done the theme that he wants to go here. He's done it better in like Black Coat's Daughter. But he knew
it's funny
that he was making that jump.
It's funny to me how much the release of Longlegs has sort of boosted the profile and general like love for Black Coat's Daughter. I feel like there was a lot of people who kind of felt that movie was not that great, and upon getting a chance to revisit or thinking about it again, are really boosting it. Caitlin also revisited it and liked it more on a rewatch.
I liked it more on my rewatch too, and it's my favorite of his. I hate Hansel and Gretel.
As far as Longlegs being overrated. I think it was overhyped. I don't think it is overrated. Like the
Fair.
marketing did a really good job of just creating this like fervor. People being like, I love this movie, although I haven't even seen it yet. And that's probably too much.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But
Overhyped
yeah,
and
like I think
overrated.
it's being pretty appropriately rated.
Right? Like that's not bad. That's what it should be.
Yeah.
Let's see over here on Letterbox. That's not overrated.
Yeah, 3.5 with most people giving it a 4.
But overhyped is what we confuse. We confuse phrases all the time, and I think that's a good distinction.
Yeah. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Yeah,
anything else for
finally
Longlegs?
got to long. No, I think we can move on to another horror movie that we haven't had the chance to talk about yet.
No prayers you want to say or anything?
Oh, or do we want to do our intercut rating? I think I'd go 3.5 on this one as well.
Like a ritual on this. Yeah, Longlegs. You going 3.5?
Should we sacrifice something to Longlegs?
Sacrifice something to Longlegs? Nah, bro. I'm gonna go there. Would you put the heart on it?
Ooh. I wouldn't go heart personally.
Really?
Yeah.
It's your horror year, and one of the biggest horror movies. You're not going hard on it?
Fuck it. Give it the heart.
There we go. Welcome to the dark side. All right.
3.5 stars and a heart for Longlegs.
One that's not getting a heart, that's for sure. MaXXXine. Tell me. I got to go to the premiere to X. You got to go to the premiere of Pearl.
Yep.
And none of us went to the premiere of MaXXXine, though.
Nope.
And I think it's out on VOD next week. Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both appreciated X. I don't know if either of us like really liked it. I liked it.
I appreciated it. I liked it.
Yeah.
It was a good time. It was fun.
Pearl is a mixed bag, but obviously has this like killer performance from Mia Goth, no pun intended. There's a lot of really fun scenes in Pearl. I don't know if it all adds up to a movie I think is that good, but there's moments for sure.
Mm-hmm.
This to me is easily the worst of the three, and that's a shame because I wasn't really even thinking that until a little more than halfway through. I think there's a lot of interesting characters, interesting actors giving big performances. I like the setting. I want to spend time in this world. I just kind of think at some point they had nothing here. They just sort of felt like an exercise in this franchise just for the sake of lengthening it. And it's really got one of the worst third acts in a horror movie I can remember.
I think there's a lot to like in it, but it does feel like it was a snake eating its own tail.
Yeah.
So in breaking that down, all you really need to see before this is X, right? When this premiered at South by, the big secret was that they had filmed this during COVID over in Australia or I think New Zealand, and then just filmed Pearl back to back. They had it secretly. From X, Pearl was the prequel that told you about one of the characters that would end up in the events of that film where Mia Goth survives. You went to go see Pearl at Toronto, and as soon as they ended it, they hit you with another surprise. They had these two ready, but now they were prepping and at Toronto to get funding for MaXXXine, which they ended up filming way after. So I think there's more of a connection between X and Pearl, and then the way MaXXXine is made. It is made off of the success of these two, which I got to give Ty West all that, right? Like to film two movies for like under the same budget, under A24, that's dope. But to have X already greenlight MaXXXine before you have Pearl to greenlight MaXXXine, I mean, I think that's what sets you up to have the mentality that he had when he came to this third movie. If X was the survival porn movie that was being shot at a farm, then MaXXXine is the follow-up to that of what happens when you do, I don't know, this big sacrifice or whatever your trauma is that follows you into the successful career or change of careers that MaXXXine is trying to do now that she's in the industry. She goes from the porn industry to wanting to be a horror movie actress. All the movies is Ty West being a nerd, a film nerd through and through.
Yeah.
He is mimicking the style of movies from the 70s. He was trying to do Technicolor stuff with Pearl, which in rewatching some of the scenes, I do think Pearl looks a lot better than I remember it looking.
Yeah.
And MaXXXine is trying to imitate the 80s. I kind of like how well he tries to imitate it, but I'm also bugged by that bit of like, but you're just doing an imitation. And you're doing an imitation by the way of like the swipes and the slow responses isn't as original. You're just like mimicking the things you remember from 80s movies.
Yeah.
You know?
it feels like pastiche
Thank
more
you. That was the
than
word I was that was
more than
coming to
like
mind.
homage even, or
Yeah.
like he's playing off of it and creating something new. And
But then I still
it,
like it. Is that bad? Because there are
no, I
elements
mean,
to it where, like, the bit where she gets put on the cast. I'm like, okay, you're
yeah.
doing like a cool Hollywood thing of, will we ever be able to see this? Because they don't do molds like this anymore. So I don't know.
Mhm.
I gotta push and pull with it, where it's a little, I don't know,
I mean,
lukewarm for me on aspects.
he is a filmmaker, I think, across this trilogy who has peaks that are pretty high, and it's just those valleys that are really low, because the character writing is pretty lackluster in this. And it's funny because I think Ty West is an excellent caster of actors. Like, to have some of the names that he has in this movie, people like Moses Sumney, people like Kevin Bacon. I really like Michelle Monaghan and Bobby Cannavale.
Yeah, what the heck? It's
They're
stacked.
Yeah, and there he allows them the room to have these really fun performances, but then nothing kind of happens with their characters. They all kind of are, fodder for the canon of, slasher movies.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't build in a way that rewards you for getting invested. Um, and it is just ultimately these scenes, like when you get a great moment, like you mentioned with the plaster mold, or even the beginning where she delivers that monologue. I really liked her interactions with Elizabeth Debicki, who,
Who's great.
commands the screen whenever she's on it. It just doesn't really matter in the end much, anything that happens.
I mean, there is a through line that he's had since the first movie, right? And
Yeah,
obviously that gets into spoilers, which is why going into this one, I think it does serve you to see at least acts. They try to recap
yeah,
it for you, and they add extra scenes to it,
too
but you
much,
do need
a little bit too many flashbacks, I think.
definitely too many flashbacks. That was another issue with it, right? Because they're also using it not just as flashbacks, but as visions and
Yeah.
these like nightmares that she's having. But I think if you were to like rewatch the set, all three, you kind of see the through line, but it needs to stand on its own. And I think that's the problem with MaXXXine. He was lost in his own sauce. You had mentioned the characters, and I think you pinpointed it exactly. The route that he went about that was that he would tell her what the beginning and the middle was, and then she had free reign.
Mm.
And I don't know if that's always the best approach. There are a lot of movies that do this. We talked about Bike Riders doing it with Tom Hardy, but I think Tom Hardy is a person who's going to get you something on the other end. Here, he's directing a movie and she's acting in a movie. They are doing different things because he doesn't want to overstep her character and she's not telling him where to take the story. And that's what gets you a MaXXXine. It's you have like too many cooks in the kitchen. Um, eh, Along with the rest of the cast and how much they try to build it, this very much felt like a victory lap. It's
Yeah.
all Easter eggs to his other movies. And I think when you pitch X and Pearl as original movies, which means you're against all the other franchises, then you end up with your third movie and you're doing everything you complain about the other one. He said he put Easter eggs to X everywhere. Stuff that doesn't even make sense. It's the molds from all the X characters who died
Right.
are all throughout the set. I'm like, that's cool. But I thought you didn't like it when the MCU
Why?
did that, though. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So again, I'm like, I don't know. I'm mixed with it because this is the guy who bashed doing stuff like that, and now he's like, well, I don't know. This is my victory lab, bro. I made all
Yeah.
the money I needed already to pay off all these movies. Let's just have fun with MaXXXine. And I'm like, I guess that's what it gets you. I'm not saying he went Joe Coy or anything, where it's like anything that comes out of my mouth is going to be set. But I think he could have waited another year to release this, and I think he was stuck on the nah. I want it to be back to back to back,
Mm-hmm.
and he got it done. That's cool. But I think a couple more months editing this movie, and I agree with you. The ending happens really quick. I like the
Really
story
quick.
of the ending, but it's really random. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
I could have, I think I could have bought it had it been, woven in a little bit more, or in a
Exactly.
way that felt a little bit less like a sudden pivot. The
But in
way
his
it's
mind, he thinks it
executed just
is.
does not work, I think. Yeah.
It is. It's kind of like a Star Wars. Oh no, he returned type thing. No, it's
Right.
like the real fans have known that this is a character or something like that. And yeah, again, that's what I mean by him getting very lost and in making fun of franchises only to do the exact franchise cliches. But if he's doing it, it must be different. And no, it's not. I don't hate it. What are you plugging in it? Plugging it in at?
I'm probably going 2 stars, honestly, for this one.
2 stars?
Yeah, it's weak in my opinion. I don't know. It doesn't quite get the job done. Even if I liked a lot of a lot of the actors and their performances, I just didn't vibe with the characters or the story.
Damn. All right. Um, I'm definitely not crossing a 3.5. That's for sure. I'd settle in at a 3. So between my 3 or 2, we go in 2.5 and no heart for Maxine.
Sorry.
Um, oh, you guys, we started. Music started to tie. This man gave us 3 back-to-back movies.
Well, that's an
Which are
interesting
overall.
thing. I feel like this trilogy has kind of cemented Mia Goth as a somewhat legendary scream queen,
That's what I was about to ask you. Yeah.
and I think it's also made her a much more respected actress. I think a lot of people view her as somebody who's very, very capable of delivering as the star of a movie. But I don't know. I feel like this trilogy has sort of weakened Ty West's stance in the horror world. He's given
You
us.
think so?
I kind of think so. I don't know. I think he's got a lot of fans, but he had 3 at bats, and I don't know if any of them are particularly great.
Yes, I think there's a difference between like I don't think any of these are like super big masterpieces, but they have an impact on the culture. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
they at bare minimum put her on the map where people now see her as like, the meme of I'm a star, that she's this big horror actress.
Yeah.
The worst part would be is that I think he finds success in these and he's got big portions of horror fans that do like him. But what's going to come next, especially with her? All the scenes that we like from this trilogy from her are her going bonkers. So where's the next performance? Is it going to have to be her playing Maxine again? She could also very quickly be typecast. And that's the other part of she was directing herself almost. So if
Yeah.
she's directing herself, this is her being her. You can't have this character again for whatever the next movie is. So she's either going to be the doe-eyed face that she was in all the other movies that you see there,
Mm-hmm.
or this. And I feel like, dang, you can also get pigeonholed very quickly. So
Right.
we'll see.
Do you think they make a 4th one, or you think this is the end of the X trilogy?
Oh my gosh, bro. I'm not gonna say no, but like for Maxine, you give it more time. Give it a couple years. Bro.
Yeah.
That's fine. You can continue it later.
Let's
You-
take
you
off half
already
a
did-
decade.
Yeah, you already did a trilogy, bro. So I know you're gonna do the franchise stuff. Oh my gosh, you were so much better than the Friday 13th, and now you're gonna have 13 on you. But just give it a little bit of time. That's it. Give us some room to breathe.
Yeah.
But yeah, Maxine out in theaters, should be available like literally in a couple of weeks. But it continues the whole realm. Have you had a favorite Hollywood centric type movie? I had mentioned stop motion earlier. I like that approach of horror and the filmmaking community. Excuse me, how you use art and the such. It doesn't have to be horror, but I don't know if you've had any other ones that have stood out this year.
Yeah, I mean, you and I
in the
were talking
madness.
recently about The Stuntman, one of the movies that I think
Mhm.
has lays some inspiration for The Fall Guy. I really like that one. May December, in its own way, is a movie about Hollywood,
I
and
agree.
I really
I
love
agree.
that depiction. I love La La Land, although I don't know if I love it necessarily as a movie about Hollywood. I just love
Mhm.
that movie. Birdman as well. It's a good question. There's a lot of
Nope.
classics. Sunset
Nope.
Boulevard. Nope's a great pick.
Hell yeah. All right, we move on to speaking of cinema, our final pick, and that is My Spy: The Eternal City. I did not see this one.
Yeah.
Zach,
So
tell me why you did.
well, the first My Spy was the last movie I was paid to write a review about before the COVID pandemic happened. So it has a very particular place in my memory. I don't know if it's particularly warm place in my memory, but it's there. And this is
And
a
now you're
classic.
paying to review the sequel with your time
Exactly.
and energy.
Exactly. I have to get back at it somehow. I don't know. This is a particular brand of movie that I think we're very used to seeing, in that it's big tough guy with cute little child.
Yeah.
We've had the Dwayne Johnson version of it in movies like the Tooth Fairy was his. Yeah. We've had the Vin Diesel version of it in movies like The Pacifier. There's probably a John Cena one out there that I'm struggling to remember, and I'm sure we're going to get a Travis Kelce one in the next 2 years. But the last My Spy movie was not exactly the most innovative or memorable film. It's a pretty by the numbers family comedy where Dave Bautista gets close to this family that he's guarding because he's a CIA agent, and now in the sequel he's basically the stepfather for this precocious child, and they're off on an adventure. Her class gets sent on a field trip to Italy so they can continue the shenanigans against an entirely different background. I think the story with a lot of movies like this. It's got a pretty boring, predictable plot, and the plot is at least half the movie. So, just watching the mechanics of that playing out is tiring and a bit tedious. But I think there are moments here where it actually is like a little bit charming as a family comedy. I think Bautista, as we know, is a pretty gifted comedic actor when the material calls for it. And there's not a lot of great material for him to work with here, but there are moments where he'll make you laugh. There's this running bit where he keeps accidentally stepping on different sellers' merchandise that's laid out on the floor and having to pay for it. There's just a couple bits here that worked. I think a lot of movies like this, there's like a moment where the kid asks to do something that's a little bit above their maturity level, and the father figure has to like entrust them to do it. And this movie has that exact moment and then plays it the reverse way that you're expecting. So there's a couple solid jokes in there. I would say it's not the majority of them. There are worse things that you can watch on streaming, but there's a lot of better things too. I definitely would not recommend this one unless you're like just trying to find something that's going to be appropriate for a wide range of people. Even then, most of them probably won't love it that much. So I'm landing at a 2-star on My Spy the Eternal City, which granted is maybe a little bit better than I anticipated it being, but not much.
You got it equal to MaXXXine?
I do. I was I was probably as frustrated with the ending of MaXXXine as I was with the plot of My Spy the Eternal City.
We're never getting the Ty West interview. My Spy the Eternal City, all on Amazon Prime.
There we go.
I'll make sure to do a double feature once the MaXXXine VOD pops. But that is it for the movies of this week. We are getting down to the final weeks in like the summer where we're getting like big drops, but not that much outside of it. Like this next week is just gonna be Deadpool. This week I feel like it was mainly Twisters. Everything else are just these little releases. But come the fall, we are going to get a slew of movies coming up. But let's move into our movie news, our yay or nay. We begin with an update. Let's see if this even loads on me. On Redbox. Tell me about this.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Redbox, a company that I think has played a vital role in our movie fandoms, the DVD rental kiosks, is going to be shutting down permanently. Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment, which owns the company, are filing for bankruptcy, Chapter 7 liquidation, and apparently they will shutter the various rental kiosks across the country. I wanted to ask you in particular about this because if you go to Let Me Explain's info on YouTube, part of your ratings key is whether or not you should rent the movie at Redbox. So you might have to update that given the circumstances.
I should have updated that years ago because people had no idea what the heck a red box was to begin with. Mine was a blue box, but even then they were like, "What do you mean leave the house? Like that's not a thing to do anymore." And I think that was a big indicator to me of like, oh, that middle part is gone. So how are we even questioning why people stay at home instead of going to the theaters? There's not even a middle ground to go pick up a movie to watch at home. If that's gone, then they really aren't leaving to the theater. Like, I think that this was a crucial part of it. It's part of that buffer moment when a movie is in theaters and then it leaves before it's out on streaming. You remember this. It used to be theaters. Then there was like a moment in time where it was like in limbo. Then it gets announced. It drops on DVD. You'd be lucky to get it at Redbox or at Blockbuster. But it would be a while. There was no digital on demand. We have that now and it leaks. We all know this. You could catch
Yeah.
the whole movie on Twitter, right? It is very different times, but it would be a while before theaters, DVD, and then it may be playing on Netflix or like a channel.
Right.
With this being gone, it completely shows you that movies come out, they play in theaters for however long. Half the movies that we're discussing right now, by next month, will already be on VOD. Because the movies we discussed last month are already on VOD, from Bike Riders to everything else. So
Exactly.
in that, this should have been dead a long time ago. People don't even understand the concept of going out.
Yeah, it's one of those business models that the industry just has seemed to move beyond. And
Yeah.
even though I think there still is this like interest and appreciation for physical media, I think it's less from the movie rental community and more from the movie collection community. So
Yes. Great
it's just
point.
like there's an audience, there's a dwindling audience
Yeah.
for who you can market this product to. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm definitely like a little like depressed by it, just because the DVD rental is such a integral part of. No, but that's the thing, is like I would, Redbox is even past my time. I remember more the blockbusters and Hollywood videos. By the time that I was beyond that, I had a mail-in service for Netflix DVDs.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's the other part of it too. I feel like these were like 7-Elevens. If you're pumping gas and you wanted a movie, that was like a convenient way to do it at a time. Again,
grocery stores,
grocery stores are like Jules here and everything. You're at a point where these DVDs weren't costing the buck that they were back in the day.
Yeah.
So who's pumping gas and then going, yeah, I'll spend another gallon on a crappy movie at this place that if I don't return it in time, it doesn't make any sense to have to leave your house.
Model.
And then it's too old of a model. Half the time they were scratched up to begin with. They wouldn't have the movie you wanted. There was,
and it's not like we're living in the age where DVDs come with all the special features and director's commentaries and stuff. There's not that much of a difference between watching it on DVD and watching it on streaming, unfortunately.
Yeah, you get trapped paying the $19.99 that it would be to just get it at home to begin with. So I think that's a big reason why people just stopped gravitating towards this. There was that meme of the little girl who went to the Redbox. She's like, do I just pick the movie and then I just put the thing over and just watch it in here? Like it was a Nickelodeon or something. I thought that was great. Yeah, it's just dead and gone. This is going to be even funnier to explain to people than a Laserdisc or a DVD or a VHS, a box where you used to get your movies from.
Right.
Completely done. I mean, they come, they go. Streaming 100% is where it's at the moment. And, well, I feel that they just need to come up with a better digital model.
You see no possible return for the physical rental?
I'll get into that to wrap up the conversation, but like just for real, like not the nerds are gonna go bring back Blockbusters, a vintage thing.
Right.
Okay, that's cute. That's a project. Like in reality, business wise, this is dead. There's no more physical. But $19.99 rentals are stupid. It's not viable to go straight to Netflix, but it's not viable for you to put it up digitally for $20. So in between the $20 VOD of Bike Riders right now, before it hits Max, what's happening to that, right? People aren't willing to rent it, and they're in the midst kind of pirating it. So how do you get people to not pirate it? And I think it's the equivalent to what they did with music. It's not going to be like the best possible thing, obviously, at the end of it. But if people are pirating it at $19, then do it at $5.
Yeah. And those windows aren't clear, right? Because Bike Riders and movies like that will eventually be available on VOD for $5.99. The premium pricing doesn't last forever, but we have no idea how long it lasts. It feels like it's different for every single release.
But the price tag is getting people to not buy it. So why is it still the same price tag? That's my thing. I think in reality, they're going to have to come up with something nicer. Do you remember when Disney Plus was doing their movies in theaters, like Mulan and Black Widow, for $29.99? And you can get it from that service? I think that's a smarter idea, but don't make it $29.99. Have a Netflix original. You can get it early for 2 weeks for like $9.99. While, what's it called? What just came out with Eddie Murphy?
Beverly Hills Cop. Axel
that
F.
played for 2-3 weeks in theaters before it came out. If you gave people the opportunity to get that 3 weeks early and then it just dissolves into your Netflix account like the Disney one did, I think you will have more sales for that at home.
Totally.
That's my view for it. Now, you want the physical media. I saw Ricky just come into the chat. He was talking about, let me see over here, Alamo Draft House. I don't know about the ones near you, but the one here has a rental service. Like you go in there. I think the Brooklyn one does too. You go
Yeah,
in
they
there,
have
you're looking at movies. Yeah.
They
You
took
rent the-
over the legendary Venice collection.
So I think a big part of it is that we tried to go to a spot yesterday called Odd Obsession. Yeah, no one told us that place was closed. Walked all the way to it. It was all these older movies. They're like in a locker somewhere, right? Because they couldn't afford the rent there. So it's got to be this mix of like, okay, it can't be a video rental store, but it can be a video rental business within something else. And I think the bigger thing would be an Alamo Draft House. People are going there drinking. Oh, maybe they want to take something home. That would be I don't know, not even the artsy way, but how'd you put it? The fan service way. You got to go to the audience who would do it. And I think keeping it there.
I'm surprised more movie theaters don't try and include DVD sales in their menu or have like a small physical media collection. I mean, I guess in a way it is sort of like a competing business model to watch things at home, but like by the time these movies hit DVD, they're usually not playing theaters anymore anyway. So yeah, if you have a business where movie appreciators are frequently flocking to, why don't you sell something that movie appreciators tend to buy?
Shyamalan movie, have all the Shyamalan movies there so that they could see them. Not all of them will be available. I don't know. You could be very smart with it. I feel like people don't. But shout out Gustav also saying that public library. That's what we've always been pushing. Even the digital versions from Hoopla to what's the one with the K? It's not just Hoopla.
Canopy.
Canopy. Thank you. So yeah, so many options. Rest in peace, Redbox.
What else we got on the news docket?
Let's see. Your favorite, Marvel. Tell me about this update. Is it true?
Well, that seems to be the rumor that the Russo brothers are in talks to direct the next 2 Avengers movies, returning to the Marvel fold, in which they kind of made their names as movie directors. Of course, they're the guys behind the 2 most successful Marvel movies, Infinity War and Endgame. And in the years since then, they've focused their attention towards stuff like The Gray Man. It's been really nonstop successes for the Russo brothers, but it kind of feels like to me, two entities in search of a rebound. The Russos haven't really had a whole lot of success post MCU, and MCU hasn't had a whole lot of success post Russo brothers. So I don't know, in a way it makes sense. I'm not the biggest fan of these guys as feature film directors, but the best movies they've made have been within the MCU, and some of the best movies in the MCU have been made by them. I certainly would rather these guys be working on MCU films than directors who I am already a big fan of, who I know can make really good work outside of the MCU.
Fair. I agree. And that's why it's not surprising. It's not exhilarating, but it's comforting. It's probably the saddest way to put it, but it's like, okay,
it's
good.
It's the safe choice.
Right. I'm going to have to go to these movies. Can they stop being bad? These guys will make competent enough movies. They can't do it on their own. They're really good at producing, right? Shout out what they've done with their AGBO company, Everything Everywhere All at Once. They know how to find other people's visions and such. But on their own, they're like Benioff and Weiss. Have that stuff written for them already because they're really good at adapting it for the big screen. I agree. Civil War is probably one of my favorites out of the MCU. And even with the new Deadpool movie coming up, I think everyone knows that the big marker has been Endgame. That was the last of it. And there's pre-Endgame and post-Endgame. So, yeah, might have to bring them back. It's Star Wars, no? And this just Disney?
Yeah. It's all under the umbrella.
Please come back. Oh no, Russos, please come back. They just bring back everybody.
Exactly.
Who had already done it. So, yeah. I'll say yay for it.
Nice. The lineups for the Toronto International Film Festival and the Venice Film Festival have been mostly revealed or entirely revealed in some cases. Shout out to our buddy Ewan, who's put together letterbox lists for both of those festivals for our perusal. I don't know if there's anything that jumped out to you from the TIFF reveals. We're going to do a fuller TIFF preview a little closer to the festival, so we don't need to go that deep into anything in particular. I did want to shout out a couple of the movies that are on the Venice lineup, because some of them are pretty exciting.
All right, shoot.
So the first one is Queer, the Luca Guadagnino movie that has been getting a lot of hype as it approaches Venice. Daniel Craig stars in this adaptation of a beloved William S. Burroughs novel. It comes from screenwriter Justin Kuritzkis, who did Challengers.
Just tuned in.
And many people are saying that this is going to potentially be a big player in award circuits. Daniel Craig might be one of the frontrunners in Best Actor. The Venice placement is pretty solid to launch your awards campaign. So definitely going to be one of the standout movies. The runtime clocks in close to 3 hours, I believe, for this one. 2:55 right now.
Damn.
Yeah. There's also Maria, which is the latest film from Pablo Larraín and continues his set of movies profiling iconic women with iconic actresses embodying them. This film is about Maria Callas, who is a opera singer, and Angelina Jolie plays the role of Maria Callas in this film. So like he's done for Kristen Stewart, and for excuse me, I'm slipping from my brain. Oh, for Natalie Portman before them, we might be getting a Pablo Larraín directed Angelina Jolie Best Actress campaign this year. Yeah. And those Larraín movies always are like visually stunning, and the production design is incredible. So should be one to look out for. Joker, Folie à Deux is going to be premiering at Venice, like the first film did. This the new film from Todd Phillips following the last Joker movie. This one has got Lady Gaga in it. This one is supposed to be a musical. This one doesn't look nearly as like dour and downtrodden as the last one. It actually seems like it might be a little bit of fun. I don't know.
There's hope.
Yeah, I'm more excited for this one than I was the first movie, and I didn't really even love that first movie.
Ooh, we got a Joker fan here. Todd Phillip in the house.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the director's idea. It's incredible.
There you go. I think
Let's talk about our man Brady Corbett.
You back?
He back, and not
Finally,
only is he
bro.
back, he's back with a 3.5-hour film, The Brutalist, with Adrian Brody, Felicity Jones, Guy Pearce, Alessandro Nivolo, Joe Alwyn. It's a intriguing film set to premiere at Venice. Shout out to our buddy Ewan, who I think said that this one is inspired, at least in part, by The Fountainhead. I don't know, man. Brady is a really interesting director. We both are fans of Vox Lux, so I'm just very curious to see what he's had cooking with this movie.
Good.
The last one I wanted to shout out is Baby Girl, which is the new film from Helena Rain, most recently made Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Also made that film Instinct, which maybe has a little bit more in common with this new film, which is about a career woman in her 40s embarking on an affair with her 21-year-old intern. The 40-year-old woman is Nicole Kidman. The 21-year-old intern, Harris Dickinson, your guy.
That's my boy.
You excited?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Great director. She has not made a bad movie. She's made some uncomfortable stuff. But yeah, no, this looks fire. Nicole Kidman's not bad. I know like everyone knows her right now. She's AMC meme and has done some stuff here and there, but it's like when Nicole Kidman comes in, she can give a killer performance.
Definitely. And I also feel like Nicole Kidman, especially as we've seen like major movies become more and more sexless, our major stars be more and more afraid of taking kind of sexy parts. She's just someone who's always willing to go there, is really unafraid of challenging sexual material.
Yeah, she's in a different timeline. I mean, she just did that Zac Efron movie. I have not been able to cleanse myself from the Vikings movie from what's his name. You know, she's out there.
Yeah,
we come to the theater for love. All right, Baby Girl. I'm excited for it. Any of those gonna be at TIFF?
As far as I know, I think all 5 of those are not TIFF movies. Now, I could be wrong. Joker in particular did TIFF last time, so I'd be surprised that it doesn't eventually end up there. But yeah, maybe somebody in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't have the lineups memorized quite yet. But lots of stuff to be excited for. I don't know if those seemed like the most exciting picks to you.
Oh, those look pretty good. I'm excited to see how they roll out. Hopefully, most of them premiere here before the end of the year, because that's usually what it comes down to. It's that they get dates. So
yeah, exactly.
But we do have dates for 3. insane trailers.
Exactly. Not everything exciting is playing at a film festival.
We got ourselves F1, bro. You know how I feel about trailers. I don't like them. They spoil stuff. Got a little too much. I saw the F1 trailer and then I played it back. That's how good that was.
Yeah, man. Look, this is directed by Joseph Kosinski. We mentioned him earlier. He was on Twisters. But most notably, this is the Top Gun Maverick director. And that dude took the cameras that they put on the jets and put them on the F1 cars. It's like a idea so simple. It's like, how didn't we think of it earlier? It really is almost like he developed Top Gun Maverick and was like, all right, how else can I use these cameras? I need to figure out what else we can do with this. Yeah. I spent too much money.
Look, this thing, just from the sound design alone, I think it's an incredible trailer just to begin with. It just gives you the feel of what it's supposed to be. Getting
the anticipation.
Bro, yeah, it's edited so well that it just makes me think, oh, the whole movie is just going to be so slick. It seems like the performances and the ins and outs of this race, like the behind the scenes of it, not just the racing, are going to coincide with each other. Like, you're going to be able to get the action scenes, but this feels like one where the dialogue is going to be up to par with everything as well. It looks like it's better than something like the Ford v Ferrari from a little bit ago. And yeah, I'm all in.
Yeah, it just seems like it's going to be like a pretty incredible in-theater experience. We talked about the sound design in Need for Speed. What was that last year? I feel like this is going to knock that out of the park just based off this trailer.
True. I'm curious to see what they think in the chat. I see Trevor. Does that mean they're a patron with the?
Yeah.
Oh shit! Nice. Shout out
to our Trevor our member. Actually, on YouTube.
He is the Trevor patron. Did you thank him for just saying that none of those are at TIFF?
Yep. I asked if anybody to comment if they knew, and he commented.
This said, "Art, you put Barbie over a place." When did we bring up Barbie?
This
over A Place Beyond the Pines. That's his best movie. I think you're talking about Ryan Gosling. I don't think.
Yeah, our Gosling bracket.
Ryan Gosling. But in our bracket, I'm pretty sure I put Place Beyond the Pines as like my number one movie. So I don't think so, Gustav. You did have a breakdown. Overlap with TIFF are 40 Acres, The Order, I'm Still Here, and Harvest. So it's gonna be a big split. I feel like a lot of the stuff that TIFF may get or TIFF may not get might be a New York pick.
Yeah, 40 Acres is another intriguing one. The premise jumped out to me for that.
Sick. The next one that we have is Gladiator 2. I don't know if there's been another one since. I think it's only been the one.
I think so.
Why do you hate the music being used in the trailer, Zach?
What, are you trying to equate me with racist YouTube commenters?
No, just people who don't like hip hop in a Gladiator 2 trailer, but do like,
hey, look,
what was it?
I do think No Church in the Wild is incredibly played out as a trailer song, but it is a banger.
Right. Nobody actually wants to have that conversation, right? Because it's so like, no, it's this, no, it's that, no, it's an old song. This has been used a lot. Like, why are we? Yeah. I guess it works in the context of what they're trying to tell with the movie.
Yeah.
I'm just really intrigued with like the makeup in this movie.
Yeah, Joseph Quinn looks nuts.
Bro, yeah. Joseph Quinn looks like he might be the only survivor in the movie. Denzel Washington with the one earring coming out. He's got that crazy poster going with it. I'm all in. I'm waiting for it. I feel like this is the big comeback for Ridley.
Definitely. I mean, it looks pretty epic. I love the poster design, particularly. Like, they know what they're selling with a lot of these character posters. It just feels like it's gonna really like be that kind of epic action saga that really entertains. Ridley Scott is probably one of the best people at realizing a big action scene. You know, the battle scenes in Napoleon were incredible. So I'm anticipating this one.
What was it? It used a rock song in the trailer.
And
that was
so. I guess that's just Ridley's thing now.
It's been Ridley's thing, I feel, for a while.
Do you think Ridley knows who Frank Ocean is?
No. Maybe.
You think he's with it?
I think
he's bumping Channel Orange.
Yeah, I think he just doesn't do TikToks like Scorsese, but he knows he's up to game. He's up to game. And then the last one is Nosferatu. So good. People were leaking it, so they had to release it. And I think it has one of the best shots that I've seen in a trailer so far. That hand
Yeah.
just peering over the city every time it comes on in the
Mm-hmm.
theater. Zone out.
I mean, look, if there's
Listen.
one thing you can rely on for a Robert Eggers movie, it's that it's going to be a visual feast. All of his movies have been, and he's got the right material to make a stunning feast of visuals here for Nosferatu. I think it looks incredible. I'm really excited with the cast that he's got assembled. I'm really excited to see Willem Dafoe, Vampire Hunter. Just looks dope.
Remind me again your ranking. Eggers,
Of the Eggers
Peele,
movies?
Ari.
Oh, you want me to do a filmmaker ranking?
It's just three.
Shoot.
It's just three.
I'd probably go. Geez, that's really tough. I'd probably go Eggers 3, Aster 2, Peel 1, but it is difficult. It is close.
That's insane, bro.
That's your ranking too. Don't lie to me. That's your ranking too.
My ranking can change. You don't know that. After Nosferatu, I'll let you know. But that is it for the movies, the TV, the news, the film festival stuff, all that good stuff out there. It's time for the most important part of the show, and that is a shout out to the Intercutie patrons who we're going to be talking to in a couple seconds.
Yeah. Shout out to those wonderful Intercutie patrons who continue to support our show. They are on the Academy level to Shar, Cademan, Connor, Josh, May, Ricky, Joe, Wiley, Benji, Matt, and Jeremy. And of course, the producer level patrons are Yuden Veer, Toon, and Brandon G. Huge thanks to all of you for continuing to support the show. And a reminder that you too can join the Intercuties by becoming a member by clicking the join button right here on YouTube and signing up, or heading over to patreon.com/intercutpod and signing up for member benefits for as little as $3 a month. For that, you get early access to Intercut episodes that we've recorded but haven't yet released to the public. You get a look at our outlines and our brackets before we end up recording them. You get access to private channels on the Intercut Discord, which you can join using the link in the description. And you get an invitation to those monthly patron video chats that Art was just talking about. It's a bunch of cool stuff. It's a fun gang of movie lovers here at the Intercutie, so be sure to join up however you like to join up. And, maybe give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify while you're at it. We really appreciate those 5-star reviews. Maybe if we get to 250 Apple 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, all of us can go tornado chasing together in Oklahoma.
No, we're going to need a little bit more than that, bro, to sell t-shirts.
We'll start selling t-shirts at 250, maybe. How about that?
250, sure.
Yeah. I didn't get to call you a hillbilly with a YouTube channel. I was gonna do that if we did a Twisters individual video.
You just did, bro. So I'm gonna take that to heart. I will say that one really got Alina. She was like, "Wow, insulting the YouTubers." I was like, "No. The real insult was earlier when she said, oh, maybe I could be a wrangler." Girl, yeah, you will become a wrangler. Don't you dare. Maybe it's because she's British. Those were the lines that she had, like super succinctly at him.
Yeah.
In order to berate him, but hey, I'll be a hillbilly with a YouTube channel. If it means you get to be a fraction of Glenn Powell, yeah.
Right.
Let's get into the movies of this weekend. Starting off with technically a movie turned into a TV show that is going to be wrapping up over on Apple TV Plus. I've been enjoying it, I guess if that's the word. I've been very intrigued by it. Some of the best performances all around for Jake Gyllenhaal's Presumed Innocent, series where his number one in terms of I think they're like prosecutors gets killed, played by the one and only Renata Rensby, and they have to figure out who did it. But everyone's pinning him, so it's pretty much him trying to defend himself because he also had a relationship with her. I think it has some of the best performances out there. It is shot very well, as all Apple TV shows are, and it's about to wrap up. But then they announced a second season, so I'm really confused because I know this is a book turned movie turned series that was a mini series and now is a full-on series. I think it's definitely worth the watch. I have not caught the last episode yet, but it will be available by the end of next week. So big thumbs up for this one. Presumed Innocent.
Nice. Yeah. I caught the first episode finally and really enjoyed it, but I'm still behind. So I'm going to try and get there since everybody will be wrapping it up this week.
Mm-hmm. And then, on the flip side of it, of course, Deadpool and Wolverine. I thought it was Deadpool versus Wolverine, I swear, for the longest time. But nope, it is Deadpool
Mm-hmm.
and Wolverine co-starring in this movie that is 128 minutes. It is a long one. It makes fun of
Mm.
that. It's directed by Sean Levy. It makes fun of that. Stars two people who we all know as being big parts of the MCU in different
Mm-hmm.
shades of it. It makes fun of that. I got the chance to catch it last night. I know Zach is extremely excited for it. Look, it's better than the second one. I think I'm allowed to say that.
Cool.
I had a blast with it. I thought it was funny. I actually thought it was a better version of what Thor: Love and Thunder was trying to go for. It is also the dumbest plot I've ever seen in a movie, probably this side of Endgame. It is
Oh, no.
absolutely stupid. It makes absolutely no sense. But none of that matters when you have a character who already knows that they're there just to make fun of it, is aware of what this churning machine of Marvel is, and at least goes, you know what? Let's have an existential crisis, but not be boring like Love and Thunder. Let's try to get some stuff in there that people will enjoy, down to every aspect, every box that you have for a Marvel movie. Your Easter eggs, your cameos, your lines. But what really it is the most rated R Disney Marvel film there has ever been. They did not approach it. They went past it by a mile. This is atrociously rated R. You are not bringing your kids to this movie. That is either going to be the most annoying thing to you, or you're going to be like that child who goes, oh my gosh, this is the most insane thing they're able to do with Marvel. I think it's worth catching in theaters if you are a Marvel fan. If you are not a Marvel fan, don't go. A lot of people going to catch this in screenings and stuff. You don't care for it. You don't care for it. Don't worry about it. I got my tickets again for Thursday because I need to see this with a non-press crowd. I need to see this with a group of people who are going to be going crazy over some stuff. Because I will say, while it's really dumb, it's probably the ugliest shot movie as well. We know this about all these Marvel movies. I think you were mentioning earlier with Twisters. We haven't had those. Yeah, because people need to be outside. So they've replicated it to only be indoor stuff, and it's become these Marvel movies. So you can't have disaster movies because they can't spoil stuff. They're not willing to spend the money for you to be out there. Twisters did. And I ain't got nothing to do with Deadpool and Wolverine, where every single scene was shot inside a lot. All of them. But it is, I think one thing people are going to be coming out of it is that it surprisingly is a love letter to the Fox movies. We know that was going to be a big butt of the jokes, but it is through and through looking back at like that section of Marvel and trying to recognize it for what it was as Deadpool makes his appearance in the MCU. And look, again, I was not a big fan of the second one. I do think that this one delivers for the Deadpool fans through and through. Deadpool and Wolverine out in theaters. Catch in the most packed theater that you can, because every nerd is going to be gasping, sighing, maybe even crying. Deadpool and Wolverine out this week.
Movie of the summer?
It's the only Marvel superhero movie, so you're going to get that from a lot of people. So
I mean, look, it's also coming the week after Twisters.
I'm not even saying movie of the summer, but what I'm saying is it's a good completion to these first 2 months of summer, because we have our Twisters, we have our Longlegs, we have all of these horror movies, action movies. This is a good. I'd prefer this as the Marvel movie of this year. Like I said, compared to the Ant-Mans that we've got and everything else, I might say, if this even matters, who cares? Probably the best since Endgame or No Way Home.
Right.
And it's only because it doesn't give a damn. And it finally had a good time with that. Deadpool and Wolverine, curious, you might despise it, but I guarantee you're going to at least laugh once.
Cool.
Got tickets?
I will report. I do on Friday. Unfortunately, I did not get good seats on Thursday, so
Don't get spoiled, bro.
Have to wade through for a day full of spoilers. I mean, the trailers out there are spoiling people, so
No, kind of.
I don't know.
Yeah. I just thought it was really crazy that no, I'm just kidding. All right, let's get into our picks for the week. I'm going pretty horror for the most part here. Oddity, the movie that I was saying is, in my opinion, one of the best horror films of this year, is coming out. I'm logging it right here on the Intercut one at 4 stars, because I am for certain that Zach's also going to give it 4 stars. But if he doesn't, it's going to be bumped down to at least a 3.5. I can tell you that much. It's going to be a solid horror film.
All right.
It is out in theaters. You're going to want to watch this at home only because you can keep the lights on. This was a spooky movie, bro. I saw it at home. and was scared. I did not go on my phone. I did not do anything that might have set off whatever demons were in this film. But it comes from Damian McCarthy, who previously did Caveat over on Shudder, where this movie I believe is going to go to as well. And this is our horror doll guy right now. Not like artifacts, I guess, just cursed items. This man is a master at that, and he's just been making some really good independent films. That just scare up stuff. This one in particular is about a twin sister who passes, and this artifact that is left behind by the surviving twin sister may be able to reveal some things of that intro scene that end up causing for some really good scares. The second one that I have, because I recommended this with our podcast with Lee, and he really liked it. So he said, y'all need to watch Lowlifes. And as you can see there, Lee gave that bad boy a 4.5 star. I'm going to say as little as possible, other than this is a family that goes out in an RV and then gets terrorized by these like hillbillies who are coming after them. And the twists and turns that this takes is a very fun ride. I'm probably not as high of it as Lee is, but for the moment, this is like that indie slasher type of movie that you never get bored by, and they're coming up with new and crazy things, and the kills in this are pretty gruesome for what they're worth. Very goofy at times, but I thought it was a pretty decent recommendation. It says it's on Tubi there. I saw it digitally, but if it is there and it's not lying to you, even better way to catch it then. But my final one, which I think we're doubling up over here, is Dìdi. Yeah. I had tweeted out that there's going to be some early screenings where you can go catch it for free, but it is going to be out in theaters. So get your AMC A-list to catch one of the best of Sundance. I think this was all in our collective top 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
just knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, a really, really enjoyable film. Certainly one of the best coming of age films of the year, if not the best coming of age film of the year. And especially if you have nostalgia for the late 2000s, that 2008 time period, there's going to be things in there that just like pull you right back. It really does feel like ripped right from the filmmaker's memory. And especially just the whole element of like this burgeoning love of cinema is part of it as well. So I think people are going to really respond to Dìdi. Really, really great. Hopefully people will catch it in theaters. So that's my only feature recommendation of the week. I got a couple short films that I wanted to bring up. Have you had a chance to check Is Now a Good Time?
No.
This is the new this is the new Jim Cummings short. He's got it out on his X account. He's got it out on YouTube. I think IndieWire is embedding it. He just wants people to watch it, I guess.
Okay.
In this movie,
made it
Jim
available
Cummings,
in Tribeca.
In this movie, Jim Cummings plays a Marvel Disney executive who has brought a copy of Captain America 4 to a dying child in order to screen it for them.
Really?
And
the Mackie one?
I mean, it's funny because I feel like in Jim Cummings' version of the universe, it still stars Chris Evans.
Of course.
But he basically is using this as a vehicle to complain about all the elements of Disney blockbuster filmmaking and the ways in which they sort of compromise themselves, sort of using all of that as critique for this character. It's kind of surprising and a little bit funny, although it feels, it's got this tinge of bitterness to it as well. And I don't know if any of the arguments are particularly new arguments, but it's an interesting package for them to take. I'm not so sure about the structure of this movie, but I did find it interesting at least, and it's got his sense of humor. So if you like Jim Cummings, if you're into Thunder Road, and I know you were recommending Last Stop in Yuma County earlier this year, which I think you only starred in and produced, maybe it'd be worth checking out. Now is a good time. The short film that I liked the most that I caught recently is another one from my boy Connor O'Malley.
The Connor O'Malley pick of the week.
The Connor O'Malley pick of the week. I did want to spotlight this one because aside from Connor O'Malley, it is directed by Dan Street, who to me is one of the most exciting music video directors out there. He directed the really fantastic Joji music video for Glimpse of Us. I know he's done some work with Brockhampton, with a bunch of different hip-hop artists as well. I just think he's got a really interesting vision, and particularly Street is really incredible at doing these quick cut montages that are hyper fast downloads of information on a character without getting too heavy into exposition. It's just these like very digital modern approaches to the montage, and it marries really well with Connor O'Malley's style. So I think there's a lot to really appreciate about Corey's. It's one of the best body horror films of the year, and also very funny.
And on YouTube, right?
And on YouTube.
You had me on the top half with the director. You say Dan Schnee. I was like, hey, straight, got it. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
No Disney.
So yeah.
No Nickelodeon stuff over here like that. Right. A good weekend must watch. Like we said, we have got our Intercut podcast letterbox. So in case you wanted to keep up with all the stuff, obviously we have our individual ones that you can follow along with whenever we decide to post them there. But we figured, why not have one right here where you can have the entire weekend must watch movies that are mentioned on this show all at your disposal right there. So you can go click on our letterbox list and see all the stuff that we discussed that wraps up with all of our must-watch picks for this week. As you can see right there, click it, log it yourself, duplicate the list. It makes it easier, better, and now I got a little list that I can show about everything that we talked about this week in movies. But that is pretty much everything that we have for this week's show. You should have said the Hillbilly one for the outro. I'll let you say it for the outro then at that point. But that's all for this week's show. Again, a reminder that we're going to be having our Intercutie patron hangout right after this. So if you're interested on joining that, either sign up over here on youtube.com in our little community member thing, where for $5 a month, and they've got different tiers, you're able to get early episodes, tune into the live streams, but also have your comments and your live chat posts all be kind of standout, badged, special emoji certified. Along with all the Intercutie patrons over on patreon.com, we'll be sharing all of our notes and the link to the hangout as soon as we wrap with this. You can find me over at LME Movies on all social media. Zach, where can people find more from you?
Find more from me at Zshevich or at Multiplex Show, wherever you find videos.
A reminder that you can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, or whatever your favorite podcatcher is, and you can listen to the live video here on youtube.com, where we go through the weekend must-watch every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Some point in the week, you're going to know everything that came out. Big shout-out to all the Intercuties who listen live, all the patrons, all the iTunes listeners, leaving a 5-star review. We charted...
Oh, we were in Nigeria, Czech Republic, the UAE, Singapore, Portugal, Poland, South Africa, New Zealand, Netherlands, Australia, Canada, and we had a pretty solid week in the US. Shouts.
Shout out to the U.S. Tornado Alley, I want to say. They were really giving us those views that we needed up there.
Hey, it was an eventful week in the U.S., so I guess that for people to make time for us means a lot.
Beautiful. Or to take time out of whatever else that they had to deal with. Don't forget to leave us a comment, drop a like, follow the socials over on Intercut Pod. Zach, take it away. Until next time.
He's just a hillbilly with a YouTube channel.
Hillbillies.
Well, I'm talking about you, just one person.